So now we move to the first few decades of the 20th century. And these start with a victory of Liberal Party in 1906. Previously, there was long period of conservative rule. So the Liberal Party wanted to do something different and wanted to retain the government in the next few years or next few elections. So as discussed earlier, both parties, conservative and liberals, were gradually moving toward the acceptance of social policy, the acceptance of intervention of state in the lives of the people to improve their lives. So Prime Minister Henry Campbell Bannerman was not really concerned about the poor but because of the electoral circumstances and pressure, he introduced many reforms. And a major source of pressure for the Prime Minister was that there were 53 Labour MPs. So the representation of Labour in the Parliament was increasing with every election. And so there was this threat to Liberal Party that it will be replaced by the Labour Party soon. During this period, there were major social changes, and two of these changes were urbanization and industrialization. Other changes were in health, education, and other areas. So urbanization had started long ago. So Britain was one of the most urbanized countries in the world. And these urbanization, the reasons of this urbanization were population growth, prospect of immigration to other areas like white colonies like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and to other colonies like India, Pakistan, and Jamaica, South Africa. So gradually more and more people were moving to the towns and cities, and even some small towns were becoming bigger cities. And because of government's action, things were improving, and this made urbanization more palatable to people. But there were still many conditions which were very difficult to sustain during this era. So most of the children born in London died because of the unhygienic conditions. Later, the mortality rates dropped because of improvement in medicine, improvement in hygiene and living conditions. But even those mortality rates were very high. Industrialization was also increasing. Britain was the most technologically advanced nation in the world, but it was gradually moving from basic industries to more technologically advanced industries, and these basic industries were moving to colonies. So what did the Liberal Prime Minister Henry do for the social policy? So Prime Minister Henry allowed free school meals, although they were not compulsory in 1906, but still this was the first attempt by the government to intervene. Next year, medical examination of the children by the local authorities were started in the schools. So children's health was accepted or gradually accepted as the responsibility of the state. Then the Liberal government passed the Trade Disputes Act of 1906, which further improved or strengthened the power of trade unions so they could stand against the industrialists and work more for the labor to improve the conditions of the labor in the factories and mines. Then a Workers' Compensation Act was passed in 1906 as discussed in the last module. And finally, the Probation Offenders Act of 1907 was passed. This act allowed children to be jailed separately and not sent to the prison. So there were separate homes or for juvenile offenders, and for the first time in Britain's history, young children of 9 or 10 years old were not sent to the prison.